I'm Jane and Carmen, a crime author, and I'm sitting here with my friend across the pond, Carmen Amato, whose series set in Acapulco is fabulous. But today we're here to talk about the new book in the Smiley oeuvre, the Cold War thrillers, originally written by John le Carre, but this sequel or this prequel sequel is written by his son Nick Harkaway, and it's called Carla's Choice.
I chose Carla's Choice because I was enamored not only of the Le Carre books in the George Smiley series, but I was entranced with the idea that his son would write a new George Smiley book, not as a sequel to the series or a continuation of the series, but as an explainer book between The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which was the introduction to the George Smiley series, and the very well-known Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. At the end of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which a British spy, Alex Leamas, going behind the Iron Curtain to recruit an East German spy. But then there's this big gap until you get to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And at that point, none of the characters who were in the first book connect with the death of their friend, their colleague, Alex Leamas. And so Nick Harkaway, Le Carre's son, wrote Carla's Choice to show how all those characters that would appear in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, how they were dealing with the death of their colleague Alex Leamas from the first book.
But I've only seen the TV series and the films of the books. I've never read the actual Le Carre books. I know, I know. So it's a very different experience for me, and it meant I was scrambling a little bit to catch up on who everybody was, especially as quite a few of the characters had two names. They would have a spy name,
Mhm.
well, in fact, three or four names, because they would take on different personas throughout the book. That I fell, by about halfway, I fell into the world and became absolutely entranced by all these people and all the spider web of connections going between them all. And actually, it seemed to me that only George Smiley himself really seemed to think about Alex and what had happened to him. He was the only one who seemed to have any emotional connection.
Most of the time, a character is telling what went on, recounting things to George, rather than you, the reader, seeing the action.
Hmm. Usually
And
that's quite a big no-no in writing, isn't it? It's usually show, not tell.
but
So,
it's not the writer showing, it's the character telling.
hmm.
So it really works, but it is a very unique style. The Alec Guinness movie of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was used in a training course, an extended training course that I took as a new analyst at CIA. They played the movie in the evenings.
Good gracious. Because, of course, John le Carre was a spy. I mean, he worked for MI5, then he worked for MI6, and he was at a period of time he'd come after Ian Fleming and the whole James Bond oeuvre. And apparently, he said that he came up with the idea of Smiley, the character of Smiley, as an antidote to James Bond. Smiley's the little man, the quiet man, the one you don't see. You're not supposed to notice him. He's supposed to go under the radar. I was very puzzled by Susanna. What did you make of this character?
Um, so for those of you watching, um, Susanna is a Hungarian refugee in London and working for supposedly um, a literary agent, also a Hungarian refugee. And the book opens when she comes into the office one morning and her boss is not there, but someone else comes to the door and it's a Russian assassin there to kill her boss, but has a change of heart at the last minute because she looks like someone he recognizes. And as the story unwinds, this literary agent that Susanna works for, uh, he turns out to be a Russian sleeper agent. But he has information that tracks back to our unseen villain, codenamed Carla, that
Mm.
is deeply dangerous for everyone involved.
Yeah. There was a point when I felt like I was getting to know the character of Carla from all the tiny little bits and pieces of information. And not knowing what happens in future books, I was almost hoping for a sort of redemption for him. But
Oh no.
that never happened. And I found it quite bleak in the end, and have the kind of resolution I was looking for, even though the story in itself is completely complete.
The story is completely complete, but the purpose of the story is to lead you into Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Favorite
Yeah.
character beyond George.
I wanted to like Susanna,
Mhm.
but in the end, I felt she was a bit morally ambiguous, and she does cause the death of someone that I did like, a character that I did like, and her actions seem to be impetuous and not thought through.
One of my favorite characters was Molly McCraig, and she's head of housekeeping
Yeah.
for the circus. I liked her character so much, possibly because I saw it evolve over this book, which really introduced her very well. And then she returns in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and Smiley's People, and you see her career trajectory, but also the toll that that way of life took on her.
What about the character of Anne, George's wife? I
Oh,
found that a very unlikely relationship.
that's something that bothers me about the Smiley books. Uh, He's very aware of her infidelities, but loves her, I guess, enough not to do anything about it. Says to him, "Oh, nobody divorces Anne Smiley."
Yeah, she's Lady Anne, isn't she? And she's
She's
a peer of
yes.
the realm. I can't quite see why she would pick him. And yet there's the implication that when it is just the two of them, they're actually quite happy. And when they're apart, that's when he has to work, or he chooses to work, perhaps I should say. That's when she goes and has an adventure.
I wonder if Lady Anne Smiley has many of the characteristics that John le Carre had himself. I
Oh.
don't know, just,
Yeah. Yes, because he
speculating.
was married twice. Nicholas is from his second marriage, and even during that marriage, he personally acknowledged at least 11 affairs
Oh
during
my.
his marriage. Yeah. Up until his death, he lived about 11 miles away from me. He had a big old rambling farmhouse towards Land's End, right at the southwest of Britain. And his office, his study, apparently had the cockpit of a Spitfire fighter plane as the window. And so
Oh,
he would sit looking through the Spitfire window at the grounds, which sort of looked out towards Land End way. It was quite close to the Porthcurno, where the first telegraph wires, not telegraph wires, undersea cables went all the way
oh,
to America.
okay.
So we looked out onto this sort of bit of history where the first messages were sent and all that kind of thing.